Hi everyone! Today I want to share a card that we made at stamp class last week that was focusing on sponges, and we made all kinds of cards that used sponge brayers, sponge daubers, little cut up sponges, and this was one of the cards we made. I had a person who didn't make it, so then I have a packet of hers. I thought I might as well make those cards up with you. So this is one of the cards. It's from the stamp set Still Night, which I thought was beautiful. Right away, I was drawn to the owl. I always liked owls, and as a kid I had a little stuffed animal collection of owls. So I liked this owl right away, and I love the way it's drawn. And imagine it's kind of got a winter feel to it with the snowflakes and things, but you can kind of imagine this as a Halloween spooky branch as well. So I did it more Christmassy and winter feel with the snowflakes, but you can change the colors up on this and make a real spooky feel. Some of the other things I've used on this card is beautiful paper, and I wished I could show it even more. I even put a little strip on the inside because I wanted to show it again, and I think it's beautiful paper. It's from a collection called Joyous Noel, and every piece has some copper foil elements on it on one side, but it's really pretty. There's some holly berry and just rich colors, some snowflakes. Tranquil Tide is one of the colors, and that new Merry Merlot. So it's just lovely, and like I said, one side has copper foil and the other side doesn't on each sheet. They're all just lovely. Look at that one. So this is one of my favorite papers, I think, from the pack. Here's some deer. It's really pretty, and I've used a ton of this one particularly. See that one? It's just so lovely in the back. Has a really pretty stripe. Anyway, that's the paper I used, and that's going on the background, and then Still Night. So let me show you how I got this little circle background. I decided to use shimmery white. It's got a nice shimmer to it, which goes with the feel I'm creating here. And so I cut a circle out of a Post-it note. And that way it sticks down nice and flat. It doesn't shift. It's going to hold my paper as well as my mask all in one. The only trouble is lining it up, so you want to try to get it centered and slightly high, not centered horizontal and vertically, but centered and slightly towards the top. I think that's good. And then that Post-it note just kind of holds everything down for me really nicely. And then I used two colors. I used Balmy Blue and Night of Navy. And you can start either way. I'm going to start with the Balmy Blue. And this is a sponge. Stampin' Up sells these sponges, and they come in a big round. Let's see if I have one I didn't cut up yet. Here we go. You get 3 of these in a pack. And I cut them in half, and then I cut those halves into thirds. So I get 6 sponges out of one. You can certainly use them larger to do a larger surface, maybe cut one in half and use it for backgrounds on bigger pieces. I think this size is quite nice for me, so I went ahead and cut it into 6s. So I just inked up my sponge a little bit, and I like to just start out kind of light and then rub. Get a nice soft look. Okay, and you can always go back and add more of that center color. And then I've got Night of Navy. And I'm just going to ink that one up. Maybe you've noticed I've got these little paper pieces at the ends. This is an old tab punch that we used to sell that I've made these little handles for, but then we don't sell that punch anymore. However, we do have a newer tab punch that goes like this, and I make handles out of that as well, and I just staple them right on there. And they work as a nice little handle. It keeps your fingers from getting too inky. So that's the tab punch. Now I like to use a Post-it note that covers the entire page, because as you can see I'm going off the Post-it note here, and had my cardstock been bigger, I would have gotten some blue on there as well. Post-it notes come in so many different sizes. You can find some really great ones. I like to make sure I get a really dark edge because it's going to show up the contrast between that and the white when I lift up. The end here is going to be really great. Now I'm going to go back and add some balmy blue because I've got a little bit of white in the middle that I want to cover. But I think that's enough of the navy. There, I think that's good. And now I'm just going to lift that off and you'll see that really fun kind of circular night sky behind my owl. Look at how nice that is. I'll lift that up closer. And the shimmery cardstock still kind of comes through on that background. You can hardly see that in a film, I'm sure, or like on the screen, but in person this shimmer shows up. Now the next thing I did is I used from the stamp set those little snowflakes. I wanted to make sure to emphasize the wintry feel of the card, so I grabbed the little snowflakes and you can hardly see them on, again, I think that on this screen you're not going to be able to see it, but there are snowflakes in person that you can see, and they are made with the new shimmer paints. This is the Champagne Mist. And how I put this on to my stamp is I shook it up a little bit, which then gets some ink into the top of my lid. And then I used a sponge dauber and poked it into the lid there and used that to ink up my snowflakes. And I just kind of repeated that. And then if I needed more ink in my lid, I just tipped it. Oops. I let these go past the circle. Okay. Okay, so then I set that aside and I'm going to work on my owl. Now I stamped the owl onto shimmery white cardstock as well. And I colored the owl with Stampin' Blends. I love the way Stampin' Blends work. I think that they're really a nice coloring medium, and if you don't have them, I would check them out. There's a few videos on it. I've got some on my collection as well of videos, but I like that you can get the different tones, like especially here in his little tummy area. I've got two different tones of crumb cake, and then over here I've got soft suede, and you've got some highlights in there, and it's a really nice way to color, and they just color so beautifully. But you can also use watercolor pencils or your Stampin' Write markers, whatever you might have. Some people like to use a blender pen and the ink straight from their ink pad. So I went with crumb cake, and there's you know, several different ways you can color your owl. You'll notice I'm going to probably speed up the video a little bit as I'm coloring because I don't want you to have to watch me color completely, but I think maybe I'll show you the tummy area and then speed up from there because I like the highlights on the feathers. So this is light crumb cake. The Stampin' Blends come in a light and dark, and this is the light. And I kind of just covered his entire belly area. And then with the dark crumb cake, I added some little highlights right where the drawing shows you where to add them. Just gives the little owl some more dimension. And then I went back with the light crumb cake blunt end tip and just kind of blended those in a little bit so they weren't so stark. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish coloring my owl, and then we'll put the card together. Okay, all done coloring the owl. So part of the Still Night stamp set is a coordinating Night Owl Thinlits dies collection, and if you buy the two together you save 10% by using the bundle code. And I just think these dies are amazing because you get the owl that cuts out your stamped image, but you also get this really pretty, and I should have cut one out for you so you could see it, but it's an outline of an owl, and it would look great silhouetted against a moon or just added to a card. You've got these little snowflakes that you can cut out and use the little snowflakes, or you can cut them out from, say, a piece of cardstock and then let something shine from underneath. That's fun. And these little pine branches here are really cool because they give you 4. So imagine if they had only given you 1 and you wanted to put several on a card like I did, you would be cranking out these little pine branches for quite some time. But here you can do a whole bunch at one time, and I used 8 on a card, so I could do that in 2 cranks, and I was able to get all 8 of these little branches. And here's another little branch to put the owl on. And then also included in the die collection, and it's, oh, you've got a label for the sentiments, so you know that you've got a label that'll perfectly fit the sentiments that come in the collection. So you've got a long label for this one and an oval label for this one. So it's a really well thought out die collection, and I'm going to go cut out the owl and be right back so you can see this card get put together. Okay, I'm back. All the little pieces are cut out. I thought I would go ahead and show you that owl. I went ahead and cut one out so you could see it. So here's the die, and here's the little owl that it cuts out. So you see you've got that outline. Really fun. And imagine that on a spooky or Halloween color background. That would be fun too. One of the other cards we did at the sponge class was this kind of interesting kind of night sky. It's kind of fall looking, but you could make this Halloween too. We didn't, but you could. And that owl would look really pretty against that background too. So let's put this together. I also pre-cut out for class a bunch of these little branches, so we don't have to cut those out. Another thing I did with the paint is I wanted my pine branches to be a little bit wintry. I'm going to clean up my edges by using the sponge, and then I just painted a little bit of the sparkle on the branches as if they were sitting in snow. So let me do that. The shimmer paint is really fun, and it adds a nice bit of shimmer. Comes in 4 colors. You can check them out. They're in the holiday catalog: copper, champagne, gold, and I think iridescent, maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do a couple more. 7. I just used my multi-purpose Tombow green glue for the branch. And then I just used some more little dots of the green glue to add some of the little pine branches. Still a little wet from the paint. All right, let's set that aside for just a second. Here I've got soft suede as my base, and then I used that beautiful Joyous Noel. Normally I cut 1/4 of an inch all the way around because I want to show more of the matte, but because this paper was so beautiful, I actually only cut 1/8 of an inch all the way around on the soft suede, or you can just make it flush actually too. And then I had a little strip left over for the inside. I like to finish off the inside with a little something, sometimes a stamp, sometimes a strip of cardstock or paper, sometimes both. Okay, now my baker's twine here is actually cherry cobbler, whereas the berries are the new Mary Merlot, but I think that's okay. You barely see the berries. They're not super prominent, and I think we can use the cherry cobbler just fine. Lost a little piece of pine. That's all right. We'll get it back when we're done. I could have saved that till the end, I suppose. Okay, there you go. There's my Still Night card, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I hope that you subscribe to my channel and like some videos. I love sharing them with you, and I hope that you get some inspiration from me and my blog. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, completed time on this. I thought I would tell you because I speed up a lot during the video. It actually took me, let's see on my timer here, 25 minutes and 22 seconds. So that's the actual time on the card. I sped up when I was coloring and stuff, so the actual time that you're going to see on your video counter is going to be different. But I wanted to let you know the actual real time so that if you're making it, you don't think it really only takes 12 minutes or whatever it is that it ends up. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.